Paul from Origin. How are you?
Okay,
Good, good. Welcome to Nightbreed. Thanks for
great.
coming on, dude. Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
cool. So, whereabouts in the world are you at the moment? Are you in Kansas or?
Uh, no, I moved away about 20 some years ago. I live in the Bay Area. I live actually in San Francisco.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Some people know, some people don't.
Yeah, sure.
Kansas is home base. That's where I grew up. My bass player still lives there. And then John lives, well, let's see, I want to say he lives in Queens, New York now. And then I'm just at Brooklyn. I can't remember. He just moved recently. And then Jason lives near the capital of New York in Albany, in a little city called Cohoes. Hope I said that right. So,
Yeah, cool. How do you
so
go?
we're spread out all over the place in the North
Yeah,
America.
yeah. So, do you guys just get together for like recording and jams before tours and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, back in the early days, I mean, technology has changed obviously in the last 20 years. I mean, I used to record uh, just onto a tape back in the day and then write out tablature. And then, say in the mid 2000s, this new technology called Skype, I think, came out
Yeah.
and made life a lot easier. But yeah, now we have FaceTime and Zoom and all that stuff. But yeah, we would get together. Uh, I would record stuff and then tab it out, and then we get together and rehearse it. But now it's like the building processes are almost like I would record something and uh, FaceTime, discuss with the guys what we're thinking we're going to do, and then we just get together for a couple weeks before we enter the studio and hammer it out.
That's
So
cool.
I think we were one of the first bands that I know of that was split up doing stuff like that. At least for the last 20 years. I don't know of many bands that were doing it 20 years ago like that. So
Hmm. Yeah, sure. So if you don't mind, let's go back to the beginning. How'd you guys first get together? I know there's like necrotomy and everything, and then what 97 Origin sort of starts up, is that right?
yeah, so I grew up starting at Kiss to just heavy metal and just Ozzy and Dokken and Motley Crue to Rat and Twisted Sister, and then I heard Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and then Wasp, and then I heard Slayer, and that changed everything for me. And I kind of grew up in that golden era, like like I heard Slayer and Ingve. That's a Those were huge influential things on how I kind of wrote my music, and like the darker uh, compositions of Slayer, and then like the kind of shred mentality of Yngwie Malmsteen, and kind of in the early days I was influenced, you know, uh, Carcass, Deicide, Napalm, you know, uh, Suffocation, all the, the heavy death, I mean the heavy stuff, and Necrotomy and my other band, The Abomination, and then I jam with some guys, and like those bands, we did parties and stuff like that, in basements and house parties and garages and stuff like that, but never really recorded anything, and uh, kind of just stagnated. It came to a point where we weren't doing anything, so uh, I met Jeremy Turner, um, formerly. We formed the band. I met him at oddly enough, a propane Spud Monsters Pissing Racers Down by Anger show in my hometown, Topeka, Kansas, and I think that was like July 3rd or something, July 4th. And the next day, he was yeah, I love Entombed and Obituary, and like we were like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Let's jam. You know what I mean? And so we started jamming and just discussing what we wanted to do as a band, and we jammed with a couple we jammed with the drummer for a while, but he was like, "Man, you guys are. This is like going to, he could do double bass and he was a good drummer, but he just got to a point where he was like, "This is too much. You guys are just killing me with all these blast beats. You guys are just blast beats all the time." And in the '90s, there was some band that had blast beat. I mean, but that was we kind of have the cryptic slaughter approach as a blast beat or some other form of beat. You know what I mean? We tried not to rely on the trash beat. You know what I mean? We're trying to come up with something new from the atheist to cynic type stuff. And my cat thinks that he needs to be a part of this interview. I might have to. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He wants to get on my lap, so we might have a special appearance by Mr. Manson.
Very cool.
But anyway, so if he keeps yapping, I'm just going to have him get on my lap. Everyone's going to meet Mr. Manson probably because he wants to get on my lap big time. He thinks he's the center of attention. But anyway, so there was this drummer that was older than me and was in one of my favorite bands named George Fluke, and he was just an incredible musician and a mentor to me. Kind of changed the way I thought about how to make music. And I Clinton Applehands, I jammed with him before. Mark Manning I jammed with before as well. And so I think it was that we officially formed probably as a band, as like the 5 original members around January of '98. But me and Jeremy wrote some music, and so we were playing. We opened for Suffocation in our first show, '98. We were very fortunate. I had like a lot of contacts, even though I'd never played a real show.
Yeah, I've lost you. I don't know if you can hear me still, but you've paused.
When I used to travel to go see shows, I went to see Death at Deicide and Morbid Angel. I would travel 500 miles, I don't know where you're located, but 1,000 kilometers sometimes to see shows. So I met people and wrote letters, and so we did show trays with Cephalic Carnage, and
cool.
Got bands like Disgorge from San Diego to play with this. Went through a lineup change. Some of the guys were more rooted and wanted to stay. And I had jobs at the time. At the time in the late '90s, death metal was very, very obscure. The old bands had all gone away, and then it was like I started finding these new bands like Nile, Deeds of Flesh, Skinless, Disgorge, Cephalic Carnage, Zoomed, So we were on that kind of that Mortal Decay, this new. I mean, some of those bands have been around, but like they didn't play our neighbor area. I call it No Coast America, but then there was like this new blood, this new style of death metal coming out. Cryptopsy, like this faster, more aggressive, technical. I mean, we just called it death metal back then, but we didn't know what, now there's all these sub genre monikers. But so there was this new blood of death metal, and then all of a sudden we played a show and Relapse Records was there, and then all of a sudden they were talking to us, and we were kind of we were DIY, and we were playing shows for an unsigned band. I think we played like 14 states, even though we had like label interest. By the time I want to say late '99 or early 2000, we were in the studio, and our album came out the summer of 2000, early to mid 2000, and we were just on the road banging shows out constantly and touring with Exhumed, Cephalic Carnage, Vader, Dying Fetus, Malignancy, Goat. Oh gosh, I can't. We were just touring a lot, So that gets us up to like the start of the Relapse era, at least. Does that get you what you need?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
That's cool. And Origin, like the cover art and themes always seems pretty science fiction. Is that something you guys are like from day one? Are you always like, oh, let's make this kind of a bit spacey and you know?
Well, yeah, the okay, so again, I played the Necrotomy was, know, total gore grind carcass
Hmm.
and influenced uh and the abominant, like death metal vocals and lyrics and stuff. But on a point, there came a point where it's like, well, I'm more realist. I hope never to kill anybody or anything like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like some of my friends, they were, yeah, I took it pretty dang seriously. Someone in prison, someone was dead. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And one of my earliest influences was a band called Voivod, which most people are very familiar with now.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I just felt like, you know, the blood and guts thing, or the Satan Deicide had the Satan down, and Carcass had the gore down.
Hmm.
I was just trying to create something new, and you weren't really seeing that kind of sci-fi thriller. It's oddly enough, we do have songs about space, but I just felt like it created a different aspect. Now you look at all the technical or the newer type bands, they all use like some kind of space theme, or
Hmm.
so uh, I just was trying to come up with something that wasn't, uh, blood, guts, kill, 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 die, die, Satan, Satan, Satan. So,
Hmm.
um, there's aspects of that to our music, but we tried to do a little bit more sci-fi, a little bit more thriller, a little bit more, a little more crafty penmanship on the lyrics, I guess.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, that second album, that's when I first saw you guys, and there was the artwork that got my attention to start with, that kind of, silvery, robotic-y looking thing. They've stood out, something different.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
was a guy named Chad Michael Ward. He did some big stuff, Marilyn Manson, and
Hmm.
oh god, I can't remember. I haven't mentioned that name in a long time, but it, sometimes, we were just name throwing stuff out, and we came up with the album title, and then I think, golly, this is early on internet days. This is early 2000s, but we got us album title, and then I think we are all just digging between me, Jeremy, and John Longstreth, just trying to find something that matched the title. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And sometimes we have a title and we have artwork created, and sometimes we have a word. We try to find a artwork that we feel fits the word. So yeah, that was in 2002, and again, we used the Horsehead Nebula on the self-title. We used the Pillars of Creation on the first thing coming into existence. So we were trying to do. I mean, I remember we were on Relapse Records, and people, we were on the Contamination tour, and so I think I remember someone coming up to me like, "Yeah, I bought that Origin album, but I had no idea what it was gonna be like. I thought it was gonna be like Nebula
Hmm.
or Bongzilla, like a stoner kind of doom rock approach." And then they push play, and here we are, blast beats and
Yeah.
triple vocals and super heavy stuff. And they were blown away. They weren't expecting it at all. They didn't know what to expect. It was kind of a unprecedented for that style of music at the time. So it was very cool just to kind of create our own niche and find, you know, a different way of somehow attracting a fan base.
Hmm. Yeah, it's cool. And if we jump forward, June this year, you guys are on Agonia. Chaosmos, is it the third album with the current lineup? Is that right?
Let's see. Yes. Yeah. So we did Omnipresent, Unparalleled Universe, and Chaosmos with John, Jason, Mike, and myself.
Hmm.
And Mike, John, and I had performed on other albums together. But yes, it's the only, you know, we never had done two albums consecutive until Unparalleled Universe and Omnipresent for the same lineup. So now and uncharted territories with the third lineup, and I feel like the third release with this lineup, and
Mm,
feel like there's a symbiosis in the band, I guess per se.
yeah.
And so we got a better understanding of each other, and I think we work well under the pressure situation that we're in, how we write albums, but we kind of have that connectivity of now this is how we do things, and it's a little bit, yeah. So I feel like it's, I hope, made a great album for our fan
Yeah.
base.
Yeah, man, of course. And how do you go with the writing? Like there's lots of that's, I guess, technical, I guess. There's changes and hammer-ons and sweep picking and stuff. Like are you coming up with a riff first, or are you like, I kind of want to go for this, some sweep picking in this one, or like what's the sort of origin of a song, I guess? Well, how do you sort of start?
I, well, on this one, every album's created differently, but I was sitting here thinking, man, during the pandemic and everything, I pretty much the first year of the pandemic where we're in lockdown, I didn't really know what to do or what the world was going to do or what
Mm,
anyone or what musically or if everything was going to be done and we're
mm,
under lockdown. Um, and basically, just doing my thing. But I sat there and was like, man, if I want to have an album out by the summer of 20 or spring of 2022, I need to be in the studio, around December or the end of 21 or somewhere around that. And so I basically sat down and was like, okay, I got 9 months. And so I was like, my goal is to write a song a month. And oddly enough, uh, I was uh, in my building. A lot of people had moved out of my apartment complex, and I had access to all these empty apartments. So I would sit there and my landlord or my apartment manager that I had access to, and I would just take my amp into this empty room, and I would just start writing. Like, okay, I'd crack a beer and maybe take a puff of a J or something and try to put myself in a place. And I was like, and I just started creating. And the longer songs are the older songs because I would sit there. I'm like, okay, then in March, I started the last song, Heat Death. And I was like, so I wrote maybe 3 minutes of that song. And then April, I started Decolonizer. I was really listening to a lot of Entombed and
mm.
Napalm Death. And then I think May was Panopticon, and I had some pieces of the opening piece playing around for quite some time. So then, so I'd have these 3 songs started, and I would go back. Okay, I'm gonna practice this one all the way, and then practice this one all the way, and then practice this one all the way, and then, I sit there and like, oh, I need to build this song. Like I just was going, it's piece by piece,
Mm.
but I had 3 songs formed, and then like I was like, I'd sit there and try to write something, and I was like, oh, that riff doesn't go with any of those, so I'm gonna put this to the side, and maybe I can build off that later. So I did that. I mean, I was pretty adamant about, like I felt like I could write. I when I feel like it's something's too close nowadays, it's too similar to what I already did. So I like having. I mean, my brain doesn't, or it's not as youthful as it used to be. I
Yeah.
mean, I still think about death metal and all that. Still enjoy it. But I don't listen to it like not anywhere nearly. I didn't do anything without listening to music when I was younger. Now it's like silence is the most, you know, unless I'm in the mood for listening. I mean, I love live music, but I just don't search out. If I'm kicking it with some buddies or whatever, yeah, I'd throw down some old jams or whatever. But
Mm.
it's not the same. I'm just not constantly listening to the death metal as used to be. So just I need try to come in with a blank slate in my mind about an album. That's how I wrote Chaos Mode. So just kept building on it month to month, and then we got together maybe 3 weeks before we entered the studio and hammered it out 10 to 12 hour days. Talked about it the other 4 hours, and then slept, and then back at it, and then we were in the studio. Excuse me, 12 to 16 hours a day for a couple weeks, and then we handed over and put it to plastic or put it to
Mm.
vinyl, and
Yeah, yeah.
slap some great artwork on it, and on the road we go.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And the new album's got the new logo as well. Was that a decision early on that you guys wanted to have a new, new logo?
Well, honestly, we've been using that logo since 2009. On our backdrop for the last album was on there. We've had it on multiple T-shirts. It's done by a guy named John Zig. I think his nickname is Skin Graver, but he's done stuff from like Eats of Flesh and Disgorge.
Mm.
And I wanted to do something different. I mean, it's uh, I mean, Cannibal Corpse has different logos. Gorguts has different logos.
Mm.
Giant Fetus, Apollo Carnage. I mean, a lot of the. I mean, Slayer didn't change, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of bands,
Mm.
that do modify their logos over time. I mean, every album, the logo is a little bit different. This is the most modified version of it,
Yeah.
but I kind of wanted to do it around Omnipresent because there was a whole new lineup, but there was a little bit of resistance worrying that we might lose our fan. Just at the end of the day, I was like, there's people that love it, there's people that hate it, there's people that are indifferent to it. I mean, if you're dropping a band because Gorguts. I mean, I was a little worried when I saw the Obscura album by Gorguts because it wasn't on Roadrunner. I hadn't heard anything from the band in 5 years. But I was like, this is before the internet where you could just look something up immediately. I just walked into Best Buy and I was like, Gorguts? Wait a second, there can't be another Gorguts.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be another Origin. In fact, there is like a pop band called Origin. I'm pretty sure, but you know what I mean. I was just like, it was just I desired somewhat of a change and something a little bit more pointy and a little bit more modern.
Mm.
I like the aesthetic of it. So we slapped the old logo on the artwork, and I just wanted something different.
Yeah, it looks good, man. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
So Origin's been around for, some time now. How do you think it's changed? Like obviously, like I've got opinions, like I think you guys have grown and changed, but what do you think? How do you think it's changed since day one to now?
Oh, I mean, I try to bring something a little different, but yet maintain the original identity of the band and formats of what we've done in the past. I mean, there's certain bands that can AC/DC can play four riffs and get away with it, and I'm a fan of that stuff. I'm a fan of AC/DC. There's bands like Cannibal Corpse, and they have a format and they stick to it. And I mean, they have changes too. I mean, but I feel like, they've had little bit of lineup changes. We've had some lineup changes. I mean, if you one of the most influential death metal bands of all time, Death. Man, off the top of my head, I can't think of. I don't think they had a lineup that they had on twice. I mean, there was some maybe the Terry Butler and yeah. I mean, but like I don't think anyone heard Scream Bloody Gore and thought they were going to get the sound of Perseverance.
Yeah.
14, 12, yeah, a little bit over a decade later. You know what I mean? So I like to not have that same sound. And I mean, I don't want to just immediately turn away our fan base, and by alienating ourselves by doing something so completely different. because it's still got to be integral to me. You know, it's still the soundtrack of my musical life. You know, and
Mm.
a lot of people remember things or time frames and eras of their life due to music. So, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the next one will sound like. So, here you go.
Yeah, that's cool. So early 2023, you guys are doing the Monsters of Death European tour. They're like 20 shows or something. You guys are playing with Monstrosity from Florida. Do you know those guys at all?
Um, I first we played a fest or it was a metal fest. I I can't remember what city, but it was in 1999. It was November to December, and it was with Danzig and Morbid Angel, Bile, Deeds of Flesh, Defiled. Uh, wait, I remember all of this. Uh, In Flames. But anyway, I was a big fan of uh, the first album uh, and Corpse Grinder and all that, and then at Millennium, you know, that brought I never heard of Pat O'Brien before that, and so you know, it's like, oh man, I've never seen Monstrosity, and anyway, since I got to play, I got to be backstage or whatever. I was like, oh my god, that's the drummer of Monstrosity. That's Lee Harrison there. Like, wow, you know, like when you know, still that starstruck guy, you know, that kid that you know bought the tape, and you know, like when you get to finally meet some of the guys that you listen to a lot, you're excited, and I mean, he's a big dude too. You know, he just walked by, and you know, and he didn't know who I was. I was just like, monstrosity, you know what I mean? So anyway, I don't know if he watched our band per se. We were pretty new at the time, but anyway, I just remember um, my I got to sit right behind. If I remember right, he's a left-handed drummer. I'm pretty sure he's left-handed, but I wanted to see him play drums because I really thought he was a great drummer. And I mean, I went around to the front too eventually, but I was watching them warm up, and you know they were doing their sound check, and I was just super excited. I know you could tell I was like I wasn't a Punisher, but I was definitely fanboying, just like watching. But anyway, I I don't know if that's how he remembered me. I think we played a couple metal fests together, like the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and uh, the last time I think we played like in Germany at some metal fest, but we played Tampa a couple times, and he was at our show. I mean, which is the you know wow, you know I mean, Larry Harrison's here, so never actually toured or actually played a show like non-metal fest related. So I'm just excited to be you know like old school legends. You know, obviously Corpse Grinder before he was in Cannibal was in Monstrosity. So um, you know they have um, I want to say 6 albums now, which is weird that my band has more albums than their band. You know, I'm like some of the legends I used to listen to. You know, I'm like, wow, I have more albums. Maybe you know, like some of the old school bands I used to listen to. Some obviously not, but it was just so and it's just cool because I'm still a fan of that older Floridian death metal style. That you know, it's just very visceral for me, and still get down with it. So so I'm looking forward to it. And I checked out the opening bands. I'm not that familiar with, but they're good bands. Only one's from like Belarus, one I can't even remember where they're from, but they're like European bands. I can't. I'm sorry, but
No, that's cool. Yeah.
what I saw, it's gonna looks like a solid lineup for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. And then what else is coming up 2023 for Origin? What are you guys up to?
There's and we're in the talks for some other stuff. We're in talks with a lot of regions we haven't done. I can't,
Yeah.
Origin's been very fortunate. I can't say we played 50 countries, but we're darn close. And there's been some communication with some of the places that we've been, from Asia to Europe, possibly again, and the North American tour. There's some South America interest again. So, we feel like we have a strong discography, and even though it isn't new, we haven't really toured much of it for Chaos Mode. So there's definitely going to be more tours upcoming. We're just in the talk works, So anytime I've ever mentioned anything beforehand, it never happens. So I just won't name drop anything, because it jinxes it every time. Because people get super excited. Oh, you and this band are going to tour. That's going to be so great. And then, if anyone watches the interview or reads the interview a year later, that never happened. So I won't jinx it today. Sorry. I wish I had some good dirt to give you.
That's cool, man. It's all good. All right. Well, look, everyone watching, links below. So, keep an eye on the links, and I'm sure you'll know what's coming up. And Paul, thanks so much for your time, man. I'm a fan. I love your work, and I'm looking forward to what comes next, man.
Okay. And where are you located again?
I'm in Western Australia, so if you want to make it
Perth.
that'd be something. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while. There is talk. There is talk about that. So
fingers crossed, man.
It's been what, 10 years? I think maybe 8 to 10 years. So I had a great time in Australia. I think I don't want to say the name but when is it DFC?
Oh yeah, TFC, yep.
Yeah.
Legends, man, they're great.
You Australians in that word, gotta be careful over here using that. But I'm definitely familiar. I think, to me, that's the band. I don't know. That's the band I remember definitely from Perth. So shout out to those guys. I think they put out something recently. In the last
good, man.
Year or two.
Yeah.
So so I'll just say DFC, and I still pay attention. So
that's cool, man.
Hopefully we get back to Western Australia, kick it with some kangaroos and some DFC. So thank you very much for the interview, and all right. Well, hope to see you soon. Okay. Cool. And if we do play there, make sure you say hello. Okay.
Oh, definitely did. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thanks a lot, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.